Hi, Joyce Stech here, your inner treasure activator, and welcome to the Joyce Stech podcast. Let's talk beyond the surface. And today our guest, yes, I have a guest today, Jennifer Wright. And Jennifer Wright was diagnosed in 2022 with an aggressive form of breast cancer, and she was given the options of chemo, radiation, or guess what? Hospice. Yeah. So if you want to join up and hear about the diagnosis that actually changed everything, tune in to today's episode of Let's Talk. Hi, Joyce Stech here, your inner treasure activator. Welcome to Let's Talk. And with us today, we have Jennifer Wright. So thanks, Jennifer, for being with us. And Jennifer was diagnosed in 2022 with an aggressive form of breast cancer. And the only option she was given was chemo, radiation, or hospice. And as a woman of spirit, and I could tell you because I know Jenny, she chose to honor her body with natural mind, body, and spirit remedies. Yeah, not so crazy, guys. Hang in there. We're talking about this beyond the surface, right? Her first step before seeing an oncologist was to speak to her tumor. Yep, she spoke to her tumor spiritually to determine what it wanted from her and for her. Now, if that sounds crazy, hey, she's still here. And with a degree in health science, she also combed the literature to find real answers on a medical level as well. She is an extremely intelligent person. She is a scientist by nature, and she turned her back to the threats of death, to love her body versus going to war with it. And to the amazement of her own oncologist, she went into remission in 4.5 months, nearly 3 years ago. And as a former occupational therapist, a herbalist, a life coach, a student of the emotional code and German new medicine, she helps women now manage their fear, find their path, their wounding, and gain courage to take personal responsibility for their own health and well-being. You can find her at wrightdirections.com, and we'll get more of that and put it in the comment section so you can contact her yourself. So what we're going to talk today is about, are you a woman on a journey with breast cancer and you're worried about reoccurrence? Or are you a woman who is worried about the possibility of breast cancer given the current statistics? This is going to be the perfect place for you, because join Jennifer right now in an open and honest sharing of her journey. We'll do this in several stages. Today is about the diagnosis that changed everything for her in her life, her own personal research, and her ways to become the authority, a lioness of your own health journey. And at this point, I want to take that Jennifer Wright nor myself are doctors. We are not prescribing anything to you. We are not suggesting you do anything that we're talking about. We are, again, not liable for any of that stuff. If you're with your doctor, please stay there. And remember, it's here for your entertainment purposes and for you to listen to a conversation that Jennifer and I had, just like we were sitting in our living room. And that it was what it is. So welcome, Jennifer Wright. I'm so excited to have her here. Hi, so this is Jenny Wright. So welcome, Jenny, to this great. So thank you so much for being here and being able to be this honest in communication with people who really need to hear what you've got to say. So that's pretty cool. So, to me, this is like really takes a lot of courage, right? It takes a lot of truth. It shows us the power of choosing your own path when other people probably don't agree with you, right? And I think you're extraordinary. So I'm going to give you your accolades up now. And then if you don't hold up to them, not my fault. So I think you're extraordinary. Why? Not because you avoided pain, but because you met it. You met what you had head on. And you learned to live beyond it, and you are still here today. And so just to reiterate, you were diagnosed over 3 years ago with triple negative breast cancer, right? A diagnosis that most people are told gives them only months to live. And you're still here. You're vibrant, you're whole. You're helping other women find their way through impossible things. So Jenny, I am so honored that you're here. And before we start with you, I want everybody that's here, and before we do that deep dive, let's all take a breath for everyone who's walking this path, for everyone that loves someone who is walking this path. And know that the space that we're creating right now is safe, it's sacred, and by God, it is real, is it not, right? So Jenny, I prefaced this with like the diagnosis that changed everything. And I'm sure like every time you're walking around and life looks great, and then all of a sudden one thing could really change your perspective and everything. So if you could take us back to that moment, if that's okay with you, of like, how did you find out? I mean, what did you actually go through your mind when you first heard that you have triple negative breast cancer? I mean, I can't even imagine this. So,
Thank you, Joyce. Yes, it was a really wild time 3 years ago. I was on vacation. I will preface this by saying I was a healthy woman. I was a vegetarian. I exercised, had spiritual practice. The least person you think would be diagnosed. I was on vacation. I reached down. I felt a lump in my breast. I thought, wow. And then I thought, oh, it's probably nothing. Finally got in, took a long time to get in the mammogram, had the radiologist sat down on the bed with me and said, hey, this doesn't look good. Went out in the car, had a conversation with my husband, cried, we both cried, didn't know what was going to go next, but I thought, So then I had a biopsy, and the information came to me from my physician. My physician called me at home and said, you have triple negative breast cancer. And I said, I really don't think I want to do chemo. And this is not real. Have always had a very natural approach to health. And her response was, well, I can offer you death with dignity cocktail or hospice if you don't want to do this, which
wow. Well,
this
can
was
you
over the
repeat that
phone.
again? Give me your offers again, please. Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You can have the death with dignity cocktail, or you can have hospice.
Wow.
And
Thank you. Those are great
yeah, that
offers.
was pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
And so beyond that, what you were talking to me about mindset, what was happening during this time, I will have to say it was kind of a disassociation.
Okay.
That's the only, I mean, I really felt like I was somewhat separate from my body, like my brain somehow was separated. And my whole consciousness was filled with this idea of cancer in my body. And it was just a very strange kind of just like I had been taken over by this whole cancer thing and the whole idea of, and I remember thinking weird things like, maybe I won't be here for Christmas. And then weirder things like, maybe I don't, when I would think about something, I think, well, you probably don't even need some new shoes. You probably don't need, I mean, you're not going to need that shit anymore. And so it was really, I will have to say, it was just incredibly, I was ungrounded, confused. And I'll tell you, this is what fear does. I mean, fear like that does that to you.
Mhm.
And I don't think I had ever experienced that kind of fear before, where I just felt like I was just unglued. That's
Well,
pretty much it.
if anybody's ever had a reason to say, "What's the point?" That's it. Well, you could have gone on a binge like of going, "Hey, I might as well get my credit cards up there because I don't have to pay them anyway." So I'm glad you didn't
Right.
do that because you would have some trouble now. But yeah,
Right.
I'm not making light of it, but that is kind of scary. I mean, and I had to repeat that because if I were giving only like two choices here, or what death with dignity, which a lot of states don't have. So lucky for you, you were in one that had
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Or hospice, they're basically telling, well, you're going to die anyway. How do you want to go? Well, when to just take a gun and put it to your head, or I mean, that's not. I mean, how do you deal with that? Like, how did you not say to yourself, okay, this it's over, and like, but you didn't. You said, no, I'm not done. So, what was that turning point where you just didn't say like, well, screw it. Nobody else thinks I'm going to be here. I mean, what, like, let's go crazy. Like, what did
Yeah.
the bucket list. Let's go to the top of Hiroshima or something and jump. What the hell? What made you stay? I'm like,
That's a very good question. I just felt like there obviously was part of me that felt like there was something I still had yet to do. I also um, got a very, very clear message on a spiritual side. I went into some really deep work spiritually because one of the things that came to me, Joyce, is in my shaman work, I've always been taught that illness comes to you either because you've taken it on from somebody else or it's come here to teach you. So when I got finally beyond some of the fear, kind of knocked it back, started to get into it, I thought, okay, all right, you haven't taken it on from somebody else. So what's it here to teach you? I mean, and so I kind of started to go down that path, stepping back from it, not to say I was still in incredible fear, but I just kind of had this, okay, what's this for me? What's this about for me? And I also got a very clear message that you're, that you can heal yourself, that you are a child of God, you can heal yourself. And here's the kicker though. I realize in hindsight now, yes, I could heal myself, but you must do the work. And that's the part that I realized, as I look back, it's like, okay, there was no guarantee here you could heal yourself, but you have to do the work to do this. So that's, yeah, that's how the process kind of went, that I had to figure out what's this here to teach me? What do I have to learn here? And I'm not going to say that I'm like superwoman and that kind of thing, because it was also the marriage of that with fear, with purpose, with, just kind of back and forth, in all craziness, really.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm because this is Let's Talk, and so I'm kind of like sometimes like let me bring out the people who think you might be a little nuts, okay? So because in your bio, which I went through, right? You decided to talk to your tumor to see what
yep.
it was there, what it wanted for you. So for the people listening out there, so they don't think, oh my God, this woman is a nutcase. I mean, no, you're a scientist. You went in there. Like, what kind of people? Okay, like we're in crazy land now, but you did talk to your tumor. And a lot of stuff, even the work I do with people, right? It's like, and that is really, it's NLP work, neuro linguistic programming. There's so many other programs that do that. You really need to talk to yourself internally because that tumor did fall for a reason. So I want to go through that for the people who think that's crazy land, that that is one of the things that you did. And I want to emphasize that and go through that. You talked to your tumor. So what did your tumor have to tell you? Can you share that information?
Yes, and I really appreciate the fact that you brought this up, Joyce, because I think the whole idea of the unseen is, the realm that you work in, and that's the help that you do, and that's kind of how, we kind of see these things in the same way. What is that? What is that unseen parts of ourselves, our past lives, our traumas, all these things that we consciously don't know but are there.
Mhm.
And so that is the world that I moved into, and that's the world we both work in, that world. And so I went to that tumor, and the tumor said to me, that I had ancestral wounds to heal from my fifth generation grandmother. There was wounds that were there that were very deep about uh, treatments of women in my family line that were really significant. And I also had in this lifetime, pre-birth and up to 2 years of some significant trauma that was, I had to really clear out things I wouldn't have known. I mean, consciously did not know those things, but was able to get that information. And I think that's again that the world that you and I work in, it's the world that you bring people through. And that's the part that mainstream medicine pays no attention to. And yet that if I hadn't done that work, Joyce, I would not be here today. I would not. I clearly know that was the work I had to do. That was the toughest work. Yeah.
And
You can
that is
take all kinds of supplements and all kinds of other stuff, but that is the work.
And that's what you said earlier too, that you need to do the work yourself. And it was like, right, you need to do the work. And people don't realize how in depth this work is. And the hardest work is to look at that stuff that you buried. And you buried and it grows, right? It's like a lot of times, what is cancer? You're eating yourself, right? You're eating yourself up, right? So over something that people don't really want to see what trauma that was or whatever. And sometimes it's not even something that's like, a trauma, like somebody hit you in the head and you had a heart. That's pretty obvious. but there are all these other traumas that we suffer that we don't even know, and we can't, because we can't
Right.
remember, because it was so deep and they're so buried that they're so unconscious. And those are the ones that really take a lot of work to get to and to find, but that is the root cause of these things. So I know, choosing any kind of alternative use or route is extremely controversial, right? I mean, like you're the crazy one or whatever because everybody else is doing this. But I mean, again, I keep bringing it us because let's remember your choices. Your choices here are like which way do you want to die, basically, is what they tell
Right.
you. So,
Do chemo, and yeah, that's
so
we I knew that wasn't this particular type of cancer does not respond well to chemo. It has a low response rate, but not only that, I knew all about the side effects, and I also knew about, when we look at cancer across the board at 5 years, we're looking at less than 10% of people have not had a reoccurrence. So, and not to mention all the side effects you have that. So also that was also my other choices. Okay, let's do that.
right.
So
So you did obviously, I mean, when you find out about this, right, that's like, oh my gosh, right? And you got the emotional hit originally, but obviously to make these decisions, right, you obviously went through a lot of things and you obviously did, I'm saying obviously a lot because to me it's obvious that you did a lot of research, right, on all kinds of levels, medical level, records, other people's, you got all the statistics. But so I want to know, like, to lead up to making the decision, you know, finding that, because I'm sure there are people listening that might have just found out themselves or want to know if what they went through is normal, but if such a thing is normal. But what did those first weeks look like emotionally or spiritually or physically? What were they like for you?
well, I talk about, one of the things I did, I have a research background, so I did a wide range research into triple negative breast cancer and started to create a database looking at information. That's, one of the things that I did. The other thing is I did was I grounded myself every day and did a lot of meditation, trying to connect with my tumor, with my body, and really honing in on my intuition, really trying to, because the body doesn't lie. And I but in order to move out of the fear, it was about grounding myself and really paying attention to how my body was responding, what thoughts were coming in, what were mine, what was fear based. Because you're right, everybody and their brother, once they knew my diagnosis, was like, well, when do you start chemo, when do you start radiation? And that was even my family as well. So, I don't, one of the things that I had to do was to um first of all, I had to find somebody to lead my treatment. I knew that standard medicine was not what I wanted. And so I'm not sure if that's where you're going to want me to head, but that's kind of, I was looking for who is going to be my leader. So I interviewed actually two naturopathic doctors who refused to treat me. They basically said, "You've got triple
Wow.
negative, we aren't going to treat you." And that was so friggin' scary. I was like, I felt like I was on a ledge just being pushed off. That was really scary.
Did they tell you
So
why
yeah,
they wouldn't treat you? Did they give you
because of the diagnosis, I think they were afraid of liability. That was, they just said, they basically more or less acted like, I was really a crazy woman for even thinking about that. When they looked at um
yeah.
my biopsy report and all that stuff and look at the activity, because triple negative is incredibly aggressive, and they knew that the cell activation rate was 88%. So my tumor grew double between my biopsy and my surgery. So that's what they looked at and were afraid, it was just not, it was, they wouldn't have a good outcome, they might have a liability, but they scared the crap out of me because of that. So that's like really crazy.
That is,
And then I went to see the surgeon, who also was very scary, and told me that, women who chose natural approaches basically never made it. they just didn't make it. And pretty much I also was a crazy woman. The oncologist who explained the chemo to me said, when I asked her, I said, well, what about, my heart, because I know it was really hard on the heart. What about, autoimmune disorders? And she's like, basically, she said, you know what? You can just take it or leave it. Because I don't think they were used to people asking them questions.
Mm.
So all those things, really nothing was very warm and fuzzy in any way. Anyways. I mean, there was no soft landing pad anywhere. It was all just really pretty rough edges everywhere. And, my husband said to me, he said, the scariest thing I could see looking at you from, a distance was every time we had to interact with mainstream medicine, he said, you would just get freaked out. And a sign of that was I became hypertensive during that time.
Wow.
I always have low blood pressure, and my blood pressure was like 160 over 100
Wow.
consistently. So, that was also my body was saying, hey, wait a minute, you're in stress here. So yeah, so that tells you your body doesn't lie. So
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of what the first yeah, couple of weeks were like.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now you're on your healing journey. So what's the moment that shifted everything or where you found support? Or did you ever find a support system? Or
Oh, I did. I did. And such a beautiful person. I was referred to a naturopathic doctor that's about an hour away from me. I had a conference with her the day after 2 days after my surgery, because I still had drains in and whatever, because I went ahead and had the lumpectomy, and my doctor did not want to do that. And I said, this is really what I want. I don't want chemo. I want this out. And she was real clear with me. This is not going to, you're going to probably die. It's not going to, you're not doing anything that's helping you, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay. So I was 2 days later, I found this, I had an appointment on a Saturday. This naturopath worked me in on a Saturday. And I was so relieved, so relieved. This woman had reversed her own cancer and 10 years before. And she just whipped right into, here's what we're going to do. Here's this. She knew triple negative, and she just basically ran through you know, really about 3.5 hours we sat there and just was like
wow.
listening to a textbook. But she was amazing, amazing, amazing woman. So that was my bright light right there.
Wow. And at the point that you have found her also was amazing in its own right, correct? That's amazing. So she was your support system basically going through this?
Right,
Yeah.
right. That and my husband, I couldn't have done it without him because we had some scary times. Um, I I don't know if you may talk about that or not. During
Talk about
during
it.
the treatment, we did RCGC testing, which is really interesting. I think every person that has cancer should have RGCC testing. It's
Right.
done in
Right.
Europe.
What is that? Yeah,
The
because I'm not sure.
Yeah, the blood is taken here, frozen, and sent overseas. What it does is it takes that blood through natural compounds and sees what will eliminate that cancer and what to what degree.
Hmm.
So I had that done, and that wasn't done until it's about 2 months into treatment. And when those results came back, they still weren't good. And my naturopath kind of stepped back and said, wow, I don't know, maybe you should consider, maybe we might have to consider chemo. And I remember thinking, oh my God, the only person on my team is throwing in the towel. And so I said, my husband said, let's give it 24 hours. So we went home. I was totally freaked out, just totally freaked out. And so I basically went to meditation. I went to meditation and prayer and really focused in and got the clear answer. Yeah, you're going to stick the course. You're going to stick the course. And my husband, of course, then he being the computer guy, went to the computer and started doing all this research on the test and this and that and the other. And we both came back to each other and said, yeah, we're going to stick this. And so my husband said, there's only a one number in time. We don't know which is getting better or worse. So how can we make a decision based on this one number? And then it was interesting. The naturopath, when I became NED, no evidence of disease, she said to me, I'm so sorry. I owe you an apology. I really, I really caved in on you there. And she said, you were brave enough to continue your course. You really had the faith. You knew what you were doing. And yeah, it was really great. I mean, that she was able to admit that. But at the time, I would tell you, I was just totally freaked out.
And you were freaked out, but yet something inside of you, I mean, you knew you were making your own choice. And
Hmm.
and your husband knew that you were being you, making your own choice, and you were willing to work, like to actually, I was going to say live with the consequences or not live with the consequences in your
Yes.
life. And
Yes.
you felt real strong about that. Can you remember like what gave you such an inner strength like that?
I think, Joyce, it's about recognizing that I'm a spiritual being in this human body, and that what at some point in my being, I recognized whatever was going to come, I was going to be able to deal with it. And that you're correct, that I am the one that has responsibility and has the consequences of any decision that I make. And that's one of the things we have to remember as people, that the doctors don't have that responsibility or whatever. I mean, it's ours, because if things go awry or things go good, whichever way, we're going to be the one that deals with it. Nobody else is but us. And so I think we forget that sometimes. We think that, oh, yeah, well, they're going to do it or whatever. And it's not the case. That's why it's so important to be in your body, in yourself, making these decisions. And I think that's was what it was. It was like, I think the warrior in me was like, okay, all right, one step at a time, one step at a time, whatever it is, you're going to face it. You're going to face it, whatever that is. And at a certain point, because this was 5 months of a journey, I remember thinking, wow, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm on blinders on here, but there was just a faith that I just kept, and you can call it denial, call it whatever, but it's just one step in front of the other. And the thing was, I had to ground myself all the time. It wasn't like, like one and done or anything like this. This was a constant ongoing situation that I had to constantly bring myself back to center. Okay. Um, yeah, so I think that was it. I think my connection with my whole higher soul self, and knowing that I was walking a path I was being led to walk, and that I was responsible for whatever was going to happen or not going to happen. It was going to be mine to own.
You said something that really triggered in me when you said it just now, and it was about that warrior spirit. And I think a lot of people think the warrior spirit is like, give me a tomahawk and I'm going to go out there and fight. And the warrior spirit is really taking accountability because it really
Yes.
takes a lot of courage to one, know yourself, to trust yourself, right? This is
Mhm.
self-trust, to know who you are and like what's important to you, right? Your value system, and to stick by it. I mean, take accountability and know that, hey, I'm making this decision and whatever consequences here, I've already thought about that and I'm willing to take it. And it's my choice, my body, my choice kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, and
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that, and I think when you said that warrior spirit, I just want to clarify for I think our listeners, warrior spirit is taking accountability for your actions because that takes a lot of courage, you know.
Right. And
And
yeah, warrior doesn't
yeah,
mean violence.
no, in New York terms, it was like, you got a real good pair of chutzpahs there to be able to say, I'm doing it this way. And if you agree with it or not, and when people go like, well, you're probably going to die. Well, these people have me dead anyway. So, I mean, I can only improve on what they've already given me the odds for. So,
Yeah.
and when you said all this, you said, you had every single day. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to do this. And like, okay, you're right. It was like every single day, because I'm sure every single minute you actually probably doubted, like, am I doing the right thing or whatever. So what kept you on? What did you do to keep yourself going forward and not collapsing into it?
I think it was routine. Routine is very important. I think, um, I found that even when I was an occupational therapist working, that when people have their lives disrupted by illness, which mine was, other people do, or injury, whatever, it becomes chaotic. Life becomes chaotic. And I think when you put yourself into routine, that really helps hone you in. So I created a routine every day that I stuck to, and I had to because I did so many different things. But I believe that that routine was very important to keep me sound um, and on the path. Uh, but I was easily tripped over. I mean, that's for sure. That was but I think that routine of every day doing these things really helped me stay grounded from morning till night. I had a routine.
That's really interesting you said that because a lot of times I also talk to, with people and they don't like
Mhm.
self-care, whatever. And we forget to take care of ourselves. So there's something about the routine itself, right? But I'm sure, and to me, it's like more important than what you did on the routine is that you actually honored the routine. Because when you start doing stuff like that, right? It's like, no, I'm honoring myself. I'm taking this time now because this is important for me to do this for me, right? And I think that's why the
It's
routine
very
works,
important.
right?
I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's one of the things. It's probably the only time in my life that I can remember where I truly said, okay, I'm number one. I'm number one.
Yeah.
And I let go. I mean, it was really easy. I let go a lot of things in my life at that point in time. It was like, okay, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that, or I can pick it up later or whatever, which included people, activities, all kinds of stuff. Just let it go, let it go. This is your number one. And I think that's really hard for people because we've not been taught that. And I think I find that with women I work with, it's like they really have a hard time. And I just say, this is something you must do. And I think that's also the big message of cancer as well. I mean, cancer really comes because of the stress on the cell, that at the cellular level. That's how cancer starts, is stress on the cellular level with norepinephrine is created in the body and actually starts that process. And so I think that that's really important that we recognize there's no half-assing this, if you
Right.
will. You either do it or you don't do it. You're either number one or you're not. There's no halfway on this one. And that's very hard if you have children and you have to ask for help for that or whatever it is. But I think that is really, really important. And your body knows that too. Your
Yeah.
body knows when you say, hey, I'm number one now, I'm taking care of you. And that's just something that women especially we've not been taught to do that at all. We really haven't. We've been taught to take care of everybody else. And if there's something left over, it's for us. So it's a real reversal of that.
That's interesting because I work with a lot of people, right? And
Mhm.
and a lot of people like even when they come, they sometimes feel bad that they're even having a session done, like they're paying for it. It's like, are you serious? Do you know what you're doing? You should feel bad if you're not getting work done. All right, that's my
Right.
story because without you being healthy, how can you take care of others? And also, if you have children, they're learning from you. So what they're learning is that you don't take care of yourself. So then it perpetuates itself from generation to generation. So to
Absolutely.
me, yes, it's just the reverse. You're being selfish if you don't take care of yourself first. And I make my people that have worked with me here this little time, I get in my own head, like I'm in an airplane and I see the little mask come down, and it's like, put your own mask on first and then take care of others. Like they have to actually tell us this because we wouldn't do that on our own. Okay. So, and you can
No,
see,
that's
I
true.
hate to put
Absolutely
it in a
true.
box, but every woman would be taking care of all the kids and the guy next to them and somebody else, and they'd be dead. But everybody else in the plane is there. Look at me and look at how I help the world. And that's kind of like a bullshit flag on that one, because the bottom
Yeah.
line is, if we are not there to do the work that we're going to be doing and taking care of those people, more than one person is going to suffer here. So thank you for saying that too, because, and I think that like, do we have to get to a point where we have a serious disease before we recognize that, like, hey, maybe I should take care of myself,
Right. Well, I
maybe
mean,
I'm more
you're
important.
absolutely right.
Right, we became the caretaker, and the caretaker winds up dying, and that's great. But like, there's something about that martyrdom that is
Right.
that's that ancestral piece, which is like, you know what? I don't think I need to do that one. Okay, I don't think that's mine. So,
Well, if you look statistically, women have the greater number amount of cancers and autoimmune disorders, and they, I mean, if you look at the work of Gabor Mate on trauma, he talks about that that very fact and the reasons why. That women don't take we take care of our children, our husbands' needs, and we don't our partners or whatever, and we don't take care of ourselves, and we aren't taught to take care of ourselves. So
mhm.
yeah, it is statistically borne out in the illnesses that women have as well, and serious illnesses.
Yeah, across the boards. Yes, across the.
Yeah.
So, and I just want to tell everybody who's listening right now that we're talking with Jenny Wright, Wright. And if you want to reach Jenny, she's more than happy to have discussions with you, and she does teach across the country. So you can find her at Wright, capital DIRECTIONS. That's directions.com. That's rightdirections.com. Okay, Jenny, I thank you for being here, and I do have a question for you. If someone were to just receive a diagnosis today, or maybe they just got one the other day, and they feel terrified, what would you say to her?
I would say trust yourself. Trust yourself first before you trust your doctor. But trust yourself.
Wow. And if I were to ask you, if when you look back at from now, right? What do you know about yourself that you didn't know before all this stuff began?
That's a good question.
Hey, thanks.
That is a good question. I would say that I'm truly capable of anything I put my mind to, that I'm truly capable of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And I
and
really didn't know that before.
and I know you work with a lot of women. Do you see any particular patterns, especially in fear or anything else that you've noticed across the boards when you work with women? Because I know you work with groups, and I'm sure in these groups there's a pattern, right, that you see regardless of where they live. Is there any particular thing that you would note that you have noticed in your own work with people that have breast cancer?
Well, I think that, one of the things I see right away is the belief that their doctor knows what's right for them. I think that's a belief that has to be really, that I have to, start out right away and say, um, you know, you're going to have, if you want to go look at a natural approach, you're going to have to change your whole paradigm about thinking about the medical system and who knows what and who knows best. And so if you cannot move into that realm, then you probably can't do this because the medical system is going to scare you to death. So, you have to be able to move into that other paradigm. And that's sometimes women can and sometimes don't. And there's no right or wrong here either. But I see that as a real pattern because culturally, we have been taught that the doctor knows the best, and this is where our answers come. The other thing I find is a pattern is people sometimes want to know like all the supplements that I took as a protocol and thinking that that is all it is. And like I said, the work of emotional healing is so part and parcel for the whole thing. So really, helping women to understand that part of it through the studies that have shown through German new medicine, and that this mind body connection is so real. And so educating and see, having that education, because most women haven't really come to that point. So I would say those are two big things that you work on up front. And both of those really are also really a part of the fear factor. And how do you ground? Because you can't make decisions if you're in fear. I mean, that's a known,
Hmm.
because our brain, if it's in, fight or flight, is not going to be able to make a decision. So that's also something that's helping women to learn how to get out of fear, to start listening to themselves. So those are probably the three patterns I see.
Yeah, and it's got to be pretty fear because even when you're pretty convinced that this is what you want to do, you have people telling you, yeah, well, if you do that and something happens to you, there's that guilt factor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why didn't I do that? I equate it to like the insurance policy. Like, you don't need the insurance, but then you go, yeah, well, what if I don't get it and something happens? I'm going to kick myself in the butt for not doing this, right? So I'm sure you
Right.
went through that a lot too. How do you overcome something like that? Or does this come up in your group?
You know, I mean, the biggest thing here is there is no guarantee. So you have to recognize there's no guarantee. And that's probably the first time in my life, and probably for a lot of people, when you look at a fork in a road
Mhm.
and neither side has a guarantee. So recognizing that neither side has a guarantee, what road do you want to go down?
That's
And making that decision about that road you're going to go down, and knowing that there's no guaranteed on that road.
wow.
And
That's
also the recognizing there's no guarantees in life in general. We know that, but we forget that sometimes. We forget that there's a lot of things that are not guaranteed in life. Um, so
that,
that one, and that's really a basically, a head thing. I mean, and that you have to work through this idea that you whatever, and then I have no ownership myself as a coach in what decision people make. And I also find that along that way, like I had a call with a woman today I've worked with several times. She's, just kind of gotten into a fear because there's certain things that she thinks haven't happened. And, you know, and I had to say, okay, how can we reframe that? And so it's about that whole idea. How do you reframe? I mean, for her question was, my lymph nodes are not going down anymore. And I said, but they
did
have gone down.
gone
So
down.
can we look at it from that perspective? They have gone down. And if we know that the body is always working toward healing, then we don't know what's going on in there. Okay. I mean, do we really know what's going on in there? Can we really have to get into this fear because we don't know what's going on, when maybe we can make the assumption the body's always working towards health instead of fighting the body with poison and war and whatever, like war in the body. We're actually moving to a healthy way. Yeah, bring that sort of thoughts in too, because yeah, we can get scared very, very easily and get, you know, off the track easily.
Right. And it's really easy to have that aggressive thing, like I've got to kill everything in here, versus the harmonics of like, okay, this is happening and there must be a reason for it. This is where you have to self-talk or talk to that place. Like, okay, guys, I know you're working overtime here and I know you think you're trying to do something really good for me here, but I don't know how that's working out. So can you tell me what your purpose, like your, what are we working on here again? To these cells. I know it sounds crazy to talk to yourself,
No, no,
but
no.
there's a reason for it. There's something
Yeah.
else going on. And is there another way we could do this? It's like having the meeting, like just having a business meeting with yourself, going like, all right, guys, I'm seeing something going on in production and we're overproducing and something's got to, who's managing this thing? Who gave out this order? Did I do this? I don't think so. So we can have kind of like a fun talk about that, but this is the real talk, right? This to me is the real talk about it's not crazy to talk to your body. I'm,
No,
and that's the thing we
no.
talk about women, like, not only women but men too. But really, we have been taught, and I work with a lot of women, right? That when we get into relationship, you don't even know your own body. They're afraid to even know parts of their own body. Or you ask people, and in general, men or like, about your pancreas, they don't even know where it is. I mean, like, okay, this is like your major thing you got. You might want to spend some time knowing what you're working with, right? So
Absolutely. That's so
yeah.
important.
And people don't realize what happened during when your mother was carrying you and what happened during that childbirth. I mean, I talk about childbirth a lot because people don't think about it, but do you realize how traumatic it is for your little head to be squished out to like a funnel? And some of you guys had little clips being pulled you on. I mean, this was probably not a good day for you. You know what I'm saying? But we don't even discuss it. But we all went through that unless we got pulled out, which was a whole nother trauma, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're in this nice little warm space, and all of a sudden your skull is being crushed. I mean, this was probably
Yeah.
not a good
Let's sign up
day.
for that.
Yeah. And every birthday you go, I don't know why I have a weird feeling about my birthday. Well, maybe because you were like, yeah, that wasn't a great journey there, right? Let's not do that one again for a while. So, but all that stuff's in there. And what else did we pick up from other people? Like we don't think we picked it up, but how many of us are doing something that your mother didn't finish? I know this sounds crazy, but I
No.
work with it every day,
Oh,
and
yeah.
not. This is the stuff that makes you do crazy stuff that you go like, I don't even know why I do this way. I don't know why I'm really happy this life. Then why am I so sad all the time? You might want to look at these pieces because they show up in your body somewhere. And they usually start with autoimmune, right? And then they just work themselves into, you had mentioned earlier, like inflammation, and stress causes inflammation. Inflammation causes, well, that's any disease you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
It's the root of all disease.
it is, and we don't even face it. What are we going to do for stress? Give you some pills which create more stress on the body. People don't realize that these medications are stress on the liver, they're stress on your kidneys, they're stress on your organs. So is it helping or not? And again, I am going to cover our asses right now. I am not a doctor. I am not telling you to get off your prescription items. Go take them, have a great time. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're talking about this and I have questions about this. I have questions that I see, and that's what we're kind of doing here, right? So
Right.
we have so much more to talk about, and we're going to do a little series of things. So the next thing that Jenny has said that she would come on, if you still want to do that after going through this,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
all right.
Yeah.
How does cancer form? And it will take more than this time that we have right now because we really wanted to really talk about how does cancer form in the body anyway. And we could go through the physical item, but what causes that physical item to actually start the trip switch? Because this is getting to the source of like, what is all this about anyway? Because we all come in with some predetermined thing somewhere in our bodies. We're not 100% here, okay? So what is that? What is the little click switch that makes us go from being healthy, okay, and holding it at bay till it goes into, hey, I think I'm going to do something here. Okay, so there's something there. And that's what we're going to talk about next time, right? Right, Jenny? Is that
Absolutely. Yeah. Great
so?
topic.
Oh, God. So, Jenny, I thank you for living. You're living embodiment and you are living. So, thank you so much. And you're not in the fantasy world. You're not fantasy kind, but you're grounded and it's hard earned. And thank you for showing us that healing isn't about fighting a disease. It's really about reclaiming your life, isn't it? It's reclaiming you. So for anyone out there who's listening, we've been talking with Jenny Wright. You could reach her at directions.com, WRIGHT, directions, DIRECTIONS. Well, I did that pretty quick, .com. It's also listed. But whether you're walking through your own health journey or you're loving someone who is, remember choice is sacred. Choice is voice in medicine, and choice and hope is never naive. It is knowing you. So, Jenny, what do you want your final words to be in this first conversation today?
Um, to, I think to recognize the importance of your heart space and to come to your life in a heart space. I think that is so important, right? I mean, I think that's where for myself, I got out of my head and into my heart. And I think that is really, really important. Recognize that.
Wow, Jenny, this has been amazing. We've been with Jenny Wright. Jenny Wright, I appreciate your being here and look forward to you being here for a very, very long time. And we are going to continue this in another series. So join us for the next point where we talk about where does cancer come from? What do we believe that's coming from on another level? Not the physical kind, but what causes that physical trigger to happen? So Jenny, I cannot wait till our next session. I thank you for being here today on the Joyce Stech podcast. Okay.
Thank you, Joyce.
Let's talk. And we talked and we went beyond the surface. So thank you for keeping my integrity in the show. All right.
Love you, Joyce. Thank
Love
you.
you too. And anybody who is going through this, please know there is a support system out there. And if you're not sure of it, contact Jenny. She'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, this has been Joyce Stech, your inner treasure activator for the Joyce Stech podcast. Let's talk beyond the surface. Thank you, and can't wait to see you for our next show.